One. And we're live for a new episode of the Electrek Podcast. I'm Fred Lambert, your host. And as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintraub. How are you doing this week, Seth?
All good over here.
All right, let's jump in. We have a bunch of news to discuss, a few Tesla news items, and then we're going to get into broader EV market. Starting with a little scoop we had, a little scoopy scoop we have this week. We obtained the very first picture of the battery pack section of Tesla's upcoming structural battery pack that was announced at the Battery Day. So it was kind of a complimentary announcement of a product with the 4680 cells, because the 4680 cells have their own technological advancement, innovation with the tabless design, and of course the tabless design is what enabled the larger form factor of the cells. But what Tesla wants to do beyond that is use them and use those cells to get rid of the current system of architecture of a battery pack, which use modules. Cells get put into modules get put into a pack, and the pack then gets put into the chassis of the car. Instead of doing that, they want to go from cells to pack, and even the pack becomes part of the chassis to become part of the car, which is also a big part of the innovation here. But I mean, that's one thing. But the lack of module alone, or having, you could argue, just one big module being the pack, is in itself new in the industry. I mean, everyone used modules differently, especially a lot of automakers didn't go to the Tesla way with the cylindrical cells, which requires a lot more units of cells per pack and per modules. A lot of them go with pouch cells or prismatic cells, and those are generally bigger and will require fewer cells per modules and per pack. Tesla, a whole different way now. So this is the design that they showed briefly. So briefly, we saw the pack here, and now the sides of the underbody here are being attached to it in one big unit that form the underbody of the car. But what we had this week is the first picture of that battery pack without the cells here, except for that row here. You have one row of 4680 here that has been added. So I think it results in a total of 960 cells in that pack. We don't know for a fact for which car that pack is for, but I would assume that it's going to be the Model Y, since we think the Model Y is going to be the first car to get it. Though at the same time, there's the Model S Plaid or Model S Refresh that is coming, that some people believe that will have the structural battery pack. Will have the structural battery pack. I don't know that to be true. That would be quite a quick turnaround, I think, to put the Model S on that new architecture for the battery pack, and also the use of the 4680 cells. I mean, Tesla is ramping up production in Fremont of those cells, but Model S is still a significant size vehicle program here that will require a lot of supply of those cells, and it makes more sense with the timeline that Tesla's been talking about. Starting first using those cells in the Model Y being produced in Berlin, which is later in the year, which would leave Tesla more time to ramp up production in Fremont and deploy production in Berlin. And Elon has already talked about using the production at the power plant in Fremont to support the Model Y production in Berlin and the battery cell production in Berlin, which is going to take a little bit more time to reach production. So,
what do you think? You think the Plaid model, the Plaid Model S, or maybe the Roadster could have one of these?
The Roadster certainly would make sense. The Plaid, here's the thing. I mean, if they are doing the refresh now and they are changing the architecture of the pack of the vehicle now, it would make sense to go with that. But I just don't think they're gonna have the supply of the cells ready in time. So
yeah. And what about Cybertruck?
So I think every new vehicle, like if you're starting from scratch going forward, they're going to have it. And like I said, the Cybertruck, I would be shocked if it comes out in any kind of significant volume this year. So all the vehicle programs a little bit further out, it all makes sense for me for Tesla to all makes sense to me for Tesla to move to that architecture. But right now, it's obviously a prototype, that battery pack. But whether it's for which vehicle program yet, we don't know.
And what do we think the material, with the Swiss cheese kind of stuff?
Yeah, the like honeycomb kind of architecture here. I don't know for a fact, but I mean, it's interesting in here because what it looks to me like is that the pack had cells in them maybe, and they were testing some kind of material on it because it looked like they were removing the cells here with the kind of bluish material on top.
Mm-hmm.
Look here, you have like big residue here of it, so I'm not sure they might have been testing different materials.
It's interesting. So on this structural battery pack, generally speaking, I think one of the big concerns is that, if one or two batteries goes bad, how do you fix it? How do you get in there and replace it? These are supposed to be 1,000,000-mile batteries, but, in the instance where one goes bad, or maybe like a rock comes up and, bashes through part of it, or, whatever, is it basically you have to get a whole new pack?
Well, I mean, that might actually be part of what they were testing here because, like I said, it looks like they removed the cells from those packs. Again, I might be wrong here, but it looks like that because if you look again, like here on one of these cells, you can still see that bluish product on top of it. So that might be what they were testing here. But yeah, beyond like a cell having an issue in the pack, I think one of the other concerns is if there's a crash, because I mean the pack now, this pack is the structural is essentially
right. It's part of the car, really.
Yeah. So if there's torsion applied to it and a crash or something, I mean I know that a lot of the time if the platform of the car is compromised in a crash, the car is total anyway. So it's just that could also be part of the plan. Like if you can apply enough force that it will affect the battery pack, the car would be total if it has that architecture or the old one. So that might be the argument here. But Elon did mention something about crash rails being removable on the pack. I don't see them on the pack here. I mean, on the sides here, all you have is we can see the coolants. So all the coolant loops here runs from the side of the car, or the pack, I should say. So I don't know how those crash rails plays into the battery pack here. Would be interesting to get a better look at that. But I mean, the most interesting thing really out of that, seeing that battery pack for pictures, that Tesla has one. It's not just
CGI.
Yeah, it's not just a CGI like this thing. It's not just a presentation.
Right.
There's actually prototypes out there, and I also know that Tesla, alongside this battery pack production, they did deploy new lines for the Model S new drive units at Gigafactory. New battery pack line. Again, I couldn't confirm that the battery pack line was this battery pack though, and like I said, the timing with the 4680 cells, I just don't see it exactly. But and also the new Palladium body lines for Model S and X in Fremont are being there's new machinery being added right now. So
this was an awesome scoop. Don't have to answer this question, but is this from a similar source as the one that provided the 4680 cells ahead of time?
No, it's not actually.
Interesting.
No.
Okay.
If you remember that 4680 cell source was it was anonymous, and we had to confirm that it was actually that cells. This is from a reliable source that we have. I mean, the 4680 cell turned out to be a reliable source too, but there was we didn't know that at the time that we got.
And we still haven't made contact with that person yet.
Yeah, that person came in and disappeared.
Come back if you're out there.
Yeah,
we've got a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, because I mean, we have a lot of pieces to the puzzle, but it is a big puzzle. It's 12 years old and more kind of puzzle. We have to we have to have more pieces, like maybe a better picture on the box to get all the things together. Because I mean, I when Tesla did the presentation of battery day, I already had I was already impressed, and I thought this might be like a true not just an incremental step in improving efficiency in energy cars and battery technology and everything, but really like kind of a breakthrough. And the more we learn about it, the more I think it is the case.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to some prices news here for Tesla. Three news related to prices in a row. The Powerwall got a price increase again. If you remember, just a few months ago, it got a price increase. Now it got another one, $1,000 price increase from $6,500 to $7,000. However, the interesting thing about that is that the price increase seems to be linked to if you want to order a Powerwall. Just the Powerwall, just the battery pack. If you order it as part of a solar installation from Tesla, it still appears as $6,500, which is interesting.
Yeah, I guess it's a big order. Bigger orders, they can kind of cut some costs.
Yes, and also I think they just they maybe want to discourage that just ordering a Powerwall by itself. I mean, it doesn't have as much value as if it's connected to some solar power generation. And also, I mean, Tesla probably just doesn't they don't need to have lower prices to create demand right now for the Powerwall. Just they have so many cell channels right now that are doing super great for the Powerwall, including their own solar, of course, installation, but also like other companies. Sunrun, is it Sunrun that installs? Yeah, Sunrun installs the Powerwall. We just reported on Swell Energy that used Powerwall in their virtual power plants, and they just got a giant contract in Hawaii for 6,000 homes with Powerwall. So this is no joke. The Powerwall is ramping up quickly in terms of demand and the production side of it. I mean, I know that the last few months Elon has been hinting that they are trying to catch up, but there's no clear path to catching up to the demand right now. It's just so strong.
Yeah, you know what's interesting though? As the Powerwall gets more expensive, so now it's at $7,000. You can start. I mean, it's 14 kilowatt hours, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
You can go out and buy for $7,000 a pretty nice used. Well, maybe not a Chevy Bolt, but you can get a Nissan Leaf with CHAdeMO. You can get a Chevy Spark EV. You can get like 3 Fiat 500Es. Those things are like really cheap. But you know, those things have 15 kilowatt hour batteries at least, probably a lot more. Mm-hmm. You know, I think the Leaf's 30 something, but you know, hopefully it's hasn't dropped too much. But anyway, the point is, like at some point, I wonder, you know, are these batteries that are left in these cars going to be worth more than the cars themselves? You just, you know, pull the Leaf battery out, and you've all of a sudden got 2 Powerwalls. It's all, you know, pretty good setup. I mean,
I just don't know the extent of the installation needed to turn that into a home battery pack. Versus the current packaging that is in for a vehicle.
The batteries, like overall, are usually packed pretty tight. They have a BMS. They're pretty ready to go. It's not like the Tesla Powerwall installation is not cheap too. Like $7,500, that's for the Powerwall itself, but
right. They had $1,000 for the gateway and $3,500 for the installation itself.
Yep.
And of course, that gets split into and becomes less of a big percentage if you had more than one Powerwalls. And I think these days most installations involve more than one. But
yeah, I was just looking on Craigslist this morning. Somebody posted a Chevy Spark EV with 17,000 miles. I believe they had like a 20 kilowatt hour battery. So it's, probably close to that. Not too many miles. I was like, wow, like I could probably just park that in the back of my garage and and use that as a Powerwall at some point.
Yeah. In more Tesla pricing news, the Model 3 got some price drops in Europe too. Specifically in Europe, some example here in Germany, the standard range plus went for 43,000 euros to 40,000 euros, so a 3,000 euros drop. Long range all-wheel drive went from 52,500 to 50. and Model 3 Performance went from 58,500 to 55,000. So the price drops can be at least partly explained by the euro being stronger than the dollar lately. Here is over the last year, it dropped about 10%. So that could partly explain the pricing, but at the same time, not all the markets got the same price difference in this case, and a lot of markets, the exchange rates change didn't really match the price changes, at least not roughly, really. So it could be other factors at play. Of course, for like the standard range got the biggest drop here, and standard range plus, I should say. And that car now, what's interesting about that is that we know that in Europe it's starting to come from China, the car. So that could be part of the explanation here. Like Tesla has been rumored to be achieving better gross margins with the Model 3 being produced at Gigafactory Shanghai. So that could be part of it too. But yeah, not just Germany, of course. France, Belgium, several other markets, Sweden have received price drops too. And I mean, Germany, it makes sense for Tesla to focus a little bit more on Germany, because I know that they've been seeing an uptick in demand there following the Gigafactory Berlin project. I think that making Tesla a little bit more at home in Germany has been good for the demand there, demand generation. All right, lastly, on Tesla prices. That came out just last night. The media unit upgrade, the MCU 1 to MCU 2 upgrade in the Model S and X, that thing used to be not cheap at all, at $2,500. It just got $1,000, a 40% price decrease, sort of out of nowhere. I mean, normally that would be like a very welcome change. Like, even I would consider it from a Model S, for example. Like, I think that's starting to be much more reasonable. However, like the big price drop like that out of the blue comes out at the same time that Tesla is being pressured to recall all its vehicles on the older MCU due to the memory defect that they have. We reported on that a few times. For those who are not aware, the old MCU is the EMC issue where it's keep getting overridden and eventually it just fails. All units are expected to fail. However, depending on usage and whatnot, they might fail past warranty or pre-warranty. But we, based on Tesla's own data supplied to NHTSA, apparently it's up to a 30% failure rate. And as we discussed last week or the week before that, losing your MCU does result in safety concern, because you can lose the capacity to use it impact the capacity to use your rear view camera, your turn signals, and a bunch of other things. Your windshield wiper. So NHTSA is pushing for Tesla to recall those vehicles, but the company is fighting back on that. And but now they are sort of making that upgrade more attractive to the owners of vehicles with the old MCU, and it can be interpreted as Tesla trying to make people pay to change those MCUs instead of recalling them themselves. Of course, it's not exactly the same thing, because if Tesla recalls those vehicles, they probably will just change the memory device, the EMC inside those MCUs, and just give you back your same MCU with that new memory, and that will fix the issue. Though I assume that Tesla doesn't want to do that, because it's going to put a big stress on their service centers. It's a lot of work to do that and everything. Also, it's costly, of course, and but if you go with the upgrades, you get a whole new MCU. So you get the screen that's apparently a little bit more responsive. You get more capabilities. You get the new features like Tesla Theater, Sentry Mode, and whatnot. So there's some value in that $1,500, but I cannot help to think that the timing is kind of weird. Like Tesla is trying to get as many people as possible to buy that, so that they have to recall fewer units. I feel like, and for the owners that are starting to have problems with it, and I mean, I know that a lot of owners haven't been able to get that change on their warranty so far, even with the extended warranty that Tesla announced a few months back. Now they might be tempted to go that way and not wait for a recall, which I think it's like an unfair choice to make, because you make it not with all the information, because obviously there should be a recall on this. There's a defect in Tesla's product, and normally they just would recall it, but without having that confirmation yet, you're going to be tempted to go with the upgrade. It's a strange situation. It's a very strange situation.
Yeah, I wonder if the new updated Model S and X will have the same version of MCU that they're throwing out now. If there's going to be yet another one.
I mean, I'm sure that Tesla is improving it all the time. Wants to improve it all the time, just like that.
Because this, theoretically, it's going to be more like the Model 3 and Y, the horizontal.
Oh yeah.
Display.
Well, yeah. I mean, the computer itself with the Model 3 and Model Y is quite different than the one in Model S. And you remember we posted the schematic of it. It's like a dual computer with the autopilot computer on one side and the media unit computer on the other. It's quite a nice design for an MCU. But yeah, I assume that those will keep improving all the time, because just like the self-driving computer and just the cars, it's gonna be like become like an Apple product, when they always talk about all the GPUs is this much percentage better, this much faster, this much more efficient.
Right.
I think inside cars is going to be like that every year, on both sides of the picture, on the media unit side and on the self-driving autonomous feature side.
I mean, maybe they should just make it like a video card. Like you can pull out a new video card every couple of years. Make it something that easy that users can actually do. Although
yeah, I mean,
that
that's definitely went that route for the self-driving computers. So yeah, it would make sense to have a similar thing with the media unit. It's just that in the Model S and X, I mean, it's literally it's the screen. Like the whole thing comes out. It's like fused to the screen. So it's not ideal, but future design would make sense. All right, moving on from Tesla news, Mercedes-Benz unveiled the production version of the EQA this week. So now we have all the different, all the specs, and we have an actual look at the production design without any camouflage. So that's one of them that's definitely a lot different from the concept that was unveiled a few years ago. But the concept was supposed to be a hatchback, and we were very excited about that. But we reported over the last few years the program completely changed, and they started wanting to compete with Tesla with the Model Y, and Audi with the Q4, and all those luxury or premium crossovers that were coming out. They wanted to have an entry in that, so they sort of morphed the EQA program into a small crossover, a small SUV. And they were calling it like the little cousin of the GLA, really, like a popular SUV for Mercedes-Benz, and the dimensions are very similar.
Yeah, I wonder how tall is it, like compared to a Chevy Bolt? I mean, the tires definitely look a lot bigger.
Yeah, I mean, the Bolt is not short either.
Right. I mean, the tires are way bigger. There's more clearance for sure, but I don't know if it's like a lot longer or taller. There's definitely more ground clearance.
I think it's longer though.
Yeah.
It looks good though, don't you think?
I don't hate it. I think it's fine. I don't think I would probably get this one. Maybe I would. I don't know.
I like the front end. I mean, I don't know. I would need to see it in person, because I wasn't that impressed by the little nose cones on the EQC. Felt a little bit plasticky to me, though they had a bunch of different nose cones for the EQC, different versions of it. But I do like those hair intakes here and like the little lip of the car. I really like it.
It doesn't look efficient.
I mean, they never really go for that. I mean,
No,
if you want to talk about efficiency with the EQA, let's talk about the efficiency. I mean, look at the battery pack here. I was kind of shocked. They talked about they were talking about a 66.5 kilowatt hour battery pack. I'm like, what? That sounds small. And then I looked into it much. It's an 190 amp hour, 420 volt pack, which makes it a 79 kilowatt hour pack. I'm like, that's crazy. You have a 13 kilowatt hour buffer on that thing, 13.5 kilowatt hour buffer.
That's like a whole like a
Fiat 500, like
Fiat 500 battery.
They have that as a buffer, which is, I mean, it's crazy to me.
They'll probably have an upgrade.
I mean,
like
that's what happened. That's what happened with the Jaguar I-Pace, with the Audi e-tron.
Right.
The legacy automakers, they get into the EVs and they're very cautious about the whole thing. They're being very careful, and then they get more comfortable with it and like, all right, let's give you access a little bit more to the battery pack that you own. And they increase the range with that. But speaking of the range here, they're talking about. I was surprised. The first figure they used was the NEDC figure. I'm like, why are you even using that? I mean, like a German automaker, they announcing that. So I looked a little bit more, and they did release a Wltp range at 426 kilometers, which is 265 miles. Which, I mean, on a 79 kilowatt hour battery pack, I would say like, this is achievable for a vehicle of that size. If you limit it at 66.5 kilowatt hour, I mean, I think that's going to be probably a stretch. I think the EPA range would be closer to 10 to 15 maybe, which is not necessarily bad, but not awesome either. 11 kilowatt hour level 2 on-board charger, and a DC fast charging capacity on CCS of up to 100 kilowatts, which is probably one of the most disappointing part of the car here. 100 kilowatts of charging is not for 2021. I mean, that thing is gonna be released later this year. We're gonna start deliveries. I think we are past 100 kilowatt of charging capacity in 2021, but either way. Right now, the only version they unveil is a front-wheel drive version with a 140 kilowatt motor, which is also not very powerful.
Nope. That's a Chevy Bolt.
Yeah, that's a Chevy Bolt in a bigger form factor. So it's like 8.9 seconds, 0 to 62, 100 kilometers an hour. However, they did say that they're going to have an all-wheel drive version coming available, so you cannot say that about the Chevy Bolt.
No.
And they're going to have a longer range version coming too. Interestingly, they talked about, and that could be the explanation of the bigger pack. They didn't say that they necessarily release a bigger battery pack. They're just going to make it more efficient. So that could literally mean just reducing the buffer on the pack, which would make it a strategy similar to Tesla's whole strategy to have a bigger battery pack and then a software lock version with locked with smaller capacity.
Oh yeah.
That could be. They didn't say it in that many words, though, so I'm speculating a little bit. But they did say that they will focus on efficiency rather than a bigger battery pack. Also, we've known that some automakers have achieved greater efficiency with dual motors, so maybe they are focusing on that with a dual motor version, a smaller buffer. You could probably push that pack with an EPA range over 250 to 60, I think. Let's take a quick look in the interior because we skipped it when we wanted to talk about efficiency. You want fans? You got fans. Look at that thing. Blang, blang, blang. All the fans in there. Big screen. The screen extends from an instrument cluster into the side here to become your center screen. I mean, it looks sharp. Like it looks like premium. The seats looks nice. Very cool. But I mean, the fan design thing, it's a bit in your face, I feel like.
Yeah, it does feel like it's already windy in there.
Yeah, it feels like it's gonna take off. Like if you crank them up and you open the roof, it can actually boost the car like faster.
We're seeing a lot of those like turbine-looking fans these days. It's a thing.
Also, those. I mean, look at that steering wheel. It's a bit much, is it? Like
they should include a full keyboard on there.
Yeah, almost. There's a lot. There's a lot in there. All right. In terms of the trims, I mean, nothing crazy here. It comes in 3 different trims, which is more like aesthetics differences with different tires and wheels, different seats and whatnot. In terms of the availability of it, it's gonna release later this year, and I was a little bit concerned. There was not a lot of talk about U.S. market, and we know what happened with the EQC. They delayed that on the U.S. market. Then, I mean, BMW scratched completely the iX3 for the market. So, which also the iX3 is sort of a smaller SUV with a shorter range. I'm just afraid that Mercedes might forget about us when it's come to the EQA program, but we don't know yet. It's the way that the release felt to me.
Yeah, and also like they skipped us on the SUV last time. Like now they're the smaller cars that everybody thinks we hate is even less likely to come here. I feel like I don't know.
Yeah. I'm remaining hopeful, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. In terms of pricing, they announced 47,000 euros starting price in Germany. That includes VAT, and so if we remove that and we convert to US dollars, that's roughly $46,000. So it's not cheap either, but I mean at the same time,
it's a Mercedes.
Yeah, it's a Mercedes, exactly. And yet deliveries are starting later this year.
Honestly, if it had a little bit more motor, I think it would be a much more compelling offer. I mean, it's not too expensive to, double the wattage going into, put a front motor just as big as the back motor. That would be a pretty good package. That'd be a speedy, you can go off road a little bit. Theoretically, you get I don't want to say track time because it's not a track car, but you're going to get a fast car.
Yeah, if it was a little bit pittier, smaller buffer, I mean, you could improve that car a lot with just a little things, and maybe a future version is going to come. But I was a little bit underwhelmed by the launch. I like the design, like I said. I think especially the exterior, but everything else, I'm like, okay, it's not bad, but also it's nothing impressive for 2021.
Yeah.
It's also not their flagship. I mean, we know Mercedes is working on the EQS that's going to be unveiled soon too, and that's going to be their flagship EV. So all the specs, the higher spec performance and everything to come there. But I think Tesla is getting ready, like, to spoil the whole Mercedes EQS launch with the refresh Model S. I feel like the timing is not.
The timing is there. Yeah.
Yeah, timing is not perfect for that, and. Like both Mercedes and Lucid and everything, I think they're gonna have to get their sleeve up, roll up their sleeves, and go to work if they want to compete with that. But that's just my impression so far.
Yeah.
All right, the DeLorean, the DMC DeLorean. The news caught some attention this week that there's a revival with a company that's been like slowly building up over the last few years, and it started way back actually. I mean, for those who don't know the story of the DeLorean, I mean, everyone knows the DeLorean. It became famous from the Back to the Future series of movies and whatnot. But the vehicle itself, I mean, aside from how it stayed in the pop culture with the movies, I mean, it has an interesting story in itself. Like it came out of John DeLorean's. It's John DeLorean's brainchild. John DeLorean's was an exec in Detroit, and high up in was it Chrysler? He was high up then.
I feel like Chrysler, but maybe I'm mistaking it with.
Or maybe he jumped around. Maybe he jumped. I mean, he was one of the top guy in Detroit for a while. it was John DeLorean.
By the way,
General Motors.
I'm impressed you resisted the temptation to put Back to the Future in the title.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah, it was a Pontiac guy. Then he moved to Chevrolet, and yes, he was a GM guy. And he left and decided to do his own thing because he was more like he didn't fit in with the legacy automaker. I think he wanted to do his own thing, be a little bit more adventurous, and he decided to do this car, which was innovative for its time with the gold wing doors and the stainless steel chassis, stainless steel body panels, I should say. So, and also it was innovative for the fact that people didn't do that back then. You didn't start a new car company from scratch. So that was in the 80s, and he did it, and he actually reached production. He actually produced thousands of those cars, and a lot of them are still on the roads today. Like they still work. There was some issues with them. Of course, it was kind of underwhelming in terms of power because I mean it was sold sort of as a sport car. It wasn't cheap. I think it was like $30,000, which for back then in the 80s that was an expensive car. So it was a luxury vehicle, and the performance didn't match that. And but the story how the company handled it was pretty crazy too, because there was a lot of political infighting, and I mean there was a political deal to actually build a factory in Northern Ireland. Ireland? How am I saying that? Northern Ireland? I cannot say the word. Ireland, yeah. And there was a political government support to do it, and then the government support stopped, and then the company was in financial trouble, and then DeLorean himself ended up doing a Coke deal to bring in millions of dollars to supply the company with some.
That's dedication right there.
Yeah, so he went and did a big deal of a big Coke deal worth millions of dollars, and it turns out that the whole Coke deal was actually a FBI sting operation to catch him. And the craziest part is he came out of it found not guilty because the court found that the sting operation was so much focused on him that the FBI was guiding him into making that deal so much that the FBI was responsible for DeLorean going into the Coke trade, basically. So it was there's a term for it. I don't know the legal term, but
entrapment.
Entrapment, yeah, exactly. It was basically entrapment. So that's crazy. But I mean, it didn't. The fact that it was not guilty by then, the company was done. But
yeah, and DeLorean pioneered a few things. Obviously, Tesla's picked up on. The gull wing doors or falcon wing. Theoretically inspired some of that. Obviously, Mercedes and others have done the gull wing doors, and then obviously the stainless steel outer body. That's kind of a Cybertruck thing.
Yeah, it hasn't been done since the DeLorean. In '95, a man called Stephen Wynn.
Is that the casino guy?
No, it's a mechanic from Liverpool, actually. Okay. Very different guy.
Close.
He bought the company's old inventory, and he got the rights to the trademarks and everything. So he started working to relaunch the company. And actually, even though he's a British guy, he tried to relaunch it in Texas. The new company is based in Humboldt, Texas. And
where is that? Is that in the middle? Is that near Austin?
I have no clue. Okay. I think, is it in the south? Might be the south of Texas. Where was I? Oh yeah. So his idea is he wanted to relaunch it in lower volume than what DeLorean was making before, like more banking on the nostalgia really of the product, if you will. But they started lobbying for a new set of rules for low vehicle production that would lower the requirements that you need to reach in terms of regulations from NHTSA. And that was like 5 years ago that they started lobbying for that, and it just passed. The new set of rules just passed now, so now they are more capable of. It's easier for a low volume automakers to sell in the U.S. basically. But it took so long to get the rule passed. They released a blog this week about it that they are kind of in trouble in terms like a lot of their suppliers that they were first planning to use to relaunch the product are now gone. The engine that they plan to use, it was a gas engine, of course. It's not going to be compliance in terms of emission regulation by the end of next year. So back then, 5 years ago, it would have made sense. But now, like, they would launch it and then it would be uncompliant within the first year of production, which it's not good business. And the landscape has changed a lot too. 5 years ago, you were crazy if you were making an electric vehicle. Today, you're crazy if you're not making an electric vehicle. So they wrote in the
Do they have a Spock deal yet?
yeah, that's the next thing coming. Well, I've actually kind of hinted to that, actually. So the CEO said, that said, with the EV becoming more mainstream, we've been considering switching to an all-electric as the future. That's a weird word to phrase that. It certainly makes for an easier path through emission maze, which still loom large on any internal combustion engine. While an electric Cobra or Morgan may be a little extreme for their potential market, even though I think those are both in the works. We have already seen that an EV DeLorean, as we displayed in 2012 New York International Auto Show, is not such an out there idea. So they actually already did one. Back then, they did a conversion a few years ago, but it was just a concept to gather some publicity, if you will. Now it might actually become a real thing. So the company hinted that they're looking for financing right now to bring an actual electric DeLorean to market, which would be kind of fun.
Yeah, one of the commenters is saying that there's a few conversions out there, or at least one conversion out there. Yeah. Seems like a good conversion car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fun, unique car to have as an electric vehicle. All right. Elon is not the only major, the CEO of a major company going electric, pushing for electrification anymore. Herbert Diess is now is now on Twitter for the first time. He announced it this week while poking fun at Elon a little bit. It's all fun and game, people. The two are apparently friendly. It's not crazy competition or anything like that. But he did say that he was joining Twitter to try to steal some market shares from Elon and Tesla. And he poked fun at the fact that the ID3 and the e-tron are becoming market leaders in Europe versus Tesla, which is technically true in some markets. But yeah, I think that's a smart move because I mean, you have to argue, like, you cannot argue against the fact that Elon's Twitter account has been a great asset for Tesla. I mean, the guy has like 40-something million followers. He's been using it to promote Tesla, to promote I mean, sometimes he tweets and the stock would go up and things like that. And Volkswagen has found himself in a tough situation where they have been driving hard for electrification, making large investments, having dozens of electric vehicle programs, and some of them are launching right now. And on the financial market, they don't have that Tesla touch that made them crazy. I mean, it's worth like a fraction of Tesla stock, even though they deliver millions of cars, and most of them not electric though. So they've been trying to get that kind of momentum, and now he's going to Twitter to get it. I don't know.
He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
Clearly it seems like a smart guy. Got BMW electrified, then hopped over to VW. BMW's been kind of lost without him, I would say. So, yeah, I welcome him to Twitter. It should be interesting to see what he does.
And then after this debut on Twitter, he already used the platform to sort of tease some electric vehicle news here. He talked about a new vehicle program at the company called Trinity. And that's apparently going to be the next generation flagship electric vehicle at Volkswagen. So right now you have the ID vehicles, which he referred to them as the Neo. But I mean, the Neo, I thought it was like the concept for the ID3. Now the IDs are like a series of vehicles using the MEB platform. But anyway, he says that the Trinity is going to come after the Neo. And it will revolutionize Volkswagen and especially Wolfsburg, even more. A huge challenge for our more traditional and historic site competes against a greenfield in Groenheid. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't speak French, guys. But we take on the challenge.
So do you think it'll be based on like anything like the Taycan or anything?
I mean, I doubt that Volkswagen would come out with a Taycan type vehicle. But so he tweeted that at the same time that there was a bunch of German reports coming out about that Trinity project in Volkswagen. The details are kind of vague, but they're talking about leveraging the project Artemis at Audi. And we reported on that before. It's an interesting project where Audi, again, always come back to Tesla. To compete with Tesla, they decided to create a different organization that's going to be able to move quicker than the rest of the company, more startup-like, more like Tesla. And their goal is to develop a highly efficient electric vehicle. But the reports also describe it. So they said they're going to leverage the development of that, but also they describe it as like a flagship, like a higher-end vehicle. Which for Volkswagen, I mean, it's like what the Phantom or those vehicles are more high-end, if you will, in the lineup. So that could be interesting. And the reports also said that they plan to build that in Wolfsburg, which is the headquarters of Volkswagen, and where they have their main factory, like the mothership, if you will. So it's going to be just one more Volkswagen factory that's going to be producing electric vehicles. So we know that the company is serious. In terms of timing, though, don't hold your breath because I mean the reports were putting it in like 2025, 2026. Jeez. But what I found interesting about the timing, though, it might be those QuantumScape batteries that are going to be powering that car.
Oh, that's a great point.
Because we reported on QuantumScape over the last few months. They have a partnership with Volkswagen. Volkswagen's an investor, and they have a joint venture with them to produce batteries for their future electric vehicles. Solid-state battery that's going to have a higher energy density, that's going to be able to probably last longer, have a high charge rate, high safety, and the timing was around that. They were talking about mid-decade, so they could be banking on having that in high volume production by the time that the Trinity vehicle comes to market. Interesting little tidbits of news here. All right, still staying with the Volkswagen group. Porsche came out with a new version of the Taycan for the U.S. market, the cheaper version that previously was only available in China. Is that right?
It was announced for China. I don't think they've been delivered in China yet.
Okay. So yeah, you have two cheaper Taycan now. Is it one or two?
Well, they have one with the 79.2 kilowatt battery, and then they have the Performance Plus battery, which is the same as the other ones. It's like close to 100 kilowatt hours, like 90 something.
Okay.
And the one that costs $80,000 will look nothing like that because you'll get the base model wheels, and those look like they pulled them off a Prius or something. No,
yeah,
just kidding.
More like Tesla with the aero wheels versus the more like stylish wheels. I think.
Yeah, those wheels are probably like a $2,500 option at least.
And I mean, it's not just the wheels. If you look at all the options that don't come standard for I mean, and that's not just the Taycan for Porsche. I mean,
it's everything.
That's how they operate, really. I mean, you want like heated seats or anything like that. Normally, you'd think it comes with an $80,000 car, but no luck with Porsche.
Still, pretty good deal. Like, I don't want to say good deal because $80,000 is still $80,000. But if you want to have like what will appear to most people to be, the same car that beats like Huracans and Ferraris on the drag strip. And sets the EV record at Nürburgring. Most people will say, "Well, you have that car. Like it looks like it."
And the design is still like you said, wheelless sides. The design is still the same. It's still a very attractive design. So some people want that, and I mean, you can go with the base wheels too, and just have them third party and buy different wheels third party is going to be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and it's roomy. It's the suspension's great, but the interior, even the base model interior is probably going to be more luxurious than even a high-end Tesla. So, for a lot of people, that's going to be a pretty nice package.
Love that color. It's like
rose gold or something.
Yeah.
It almost looks like, if you look at it in one way, it kind of looks brown almost.
Yeah, brownish pink. Yeah, like I mean, those colors are super cool, but most people they just don't buy them because the resale value is it's higher it's more difficult to sell after the fact. But
Yeah.
It looks cool. I mean, it's even in like their promotional video from it, like it's.
Yeah, it's white or black is the free colors, and then everything else is like $2,500.
Yeah, it's not cheap. All right, we have one more news item we want to discuss, and then we're going to jump in the comments. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments right now. We're going to get to them after Saunders. So Saunders is mainly known for their electric bicycle, their cheap electric bicycle. But when I say cheap, I mean inexpensive. Those fat tire bikes that you see everywhere, like they very popularized that. Now it's they're going to try to do the same thing with an actual motorcycle, an electric motorcycle.
It's a nice looking vehicle. I would, it's hard to get a motorcycle license in New York because you have to take the test with an old fashioned motorcycle with I have to learn how to use the clutch and everything, which frankly, who's got time for that? But it would be really nice to have one of these. Mike has spent a lot of time getting all the details out, which Saunders was a little bit opaque about. Is this going to be street legal? Saunders hasn't really done much in the way of street legality homologation. So it is going to be street legal. They got a guy from Zero. I can't remember his name, Matt something. He obviously being at Zero, and I think he was at Ducati or something as well. He knows a little bit about street biking. So, part of the interview said the top speed is 80 miles per hour, but they've had it up over 100. Some really interesting details there. And what's kind of amazing about this bike is it's only 200 pounds. So it's like you could pick it up and at least the back end and front end or whatever. The battery's removable, which is great for city. Basically you're taking a 4 kilowatt hour battery up to your apartment, which is probably pretty heavy, but that's a lot of the value of the bike. And at $5,000,
yeah, that's the kicker. It's $5,000.
$5,000 is pretty awesome for that thing. The 80-mile range, though, that's quite optimistic. Mike and I were talking about how, if you're going 35 miles per hour, you're probably going to get 80 miles. But if you're going 50 miles per hour, you'll be lucky to get 30 miles.
Yeah, that's on the 4 kilowatt hour battery pack.
Yeah, the nice thing is that big empty spot in the middle, and Mike got this exclusively, is going to be one of three things. It's either going to be a level 2 charger, a bag for a helmet or whatever, some kind of container, or a second battery, which would be around 3 kilowatt hours. So you're adding another.
Yeah, wait. So what we see here, like it's empty. There's actually going to be something in there.
What you can put something in there, and you can put one of three things in there.
Yeah.
You can
It's
put
an option. It's optional.
Yeah, an optional, which is for level 2 charging. A lot of people are going to be like, well, why isn't that included? I mean, it's a $5,000 bike. They it's not that easy. Also, I would say not everybody's going to want a level 2 charger. Some people are going to want an extra battery and charge it at home and be fine with it. So good for them for separating that out. And frankly, a lot of people are probably going to get 0 out of the 3 and just have an empty hole there. And I know a lot of people use that area to with their knees kind of grab onto the bike to steady themselves. But it sounds like Zero's thought of that too. And there's things around that. Yeah.
You said Zero thought of that.
Sorry, Saunders.
I mean, that's the big competitor, right? Because Zero's cheapest electric bike, I think, electric motorcycle starts at $10,000.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even know if they're competitors. It's such a different bike. It's right, and Mike had mentioned this a few times. It's right between a Sur-Ron or a City Slicker. Those are like $3,500 bikes, and a Zero, or any of those other like $10,000 bikes. Clearly there's a lot missing from here, but that's also part of the thing. The simplicity there is pretty amazing. Like it's basically just a motor, a rear hub motor, which a lot of people have problems with, but it gets the job done, and a big battery, and that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. Aluminum frame.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, depending on like the legality of it and what it requires to drive it and to ride it, I would definitely consider it.
Yeah, I have two Saunders bikes. They were super cheap, but they're still kicking around. So yeah, they're still working, and they use kind of standardized parts, so it's easy to fix if they do break. Yeah, I'm willing to give them the opportunity to sell this. The one thing that did rub people the wrong way is, they have like $100 down, and then they want you to start making payments on it. And I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. I think a lot of people are going to be like, if I'm going to be making payments on it, I'm going to have something at home to show for my payments. I'm not going to pay for the bike.
Wait, you put $100 to reserve it, and then you before they ever deliver it, you keep giving them money?
That's what they're trying to do, which is quite controversial.
Yeah, especially didn't they use the same? Didn't they use a reservation process for and a crowdfunding thing for the car too? And that didn't come to market either.
No,
so
they have a 3-wheeler. Yeah, they're very Kickstartery, which rubs some people the wrong way. I get it, but if you want a $500 fat tire bike, you're not going to get one by popping down $5,000. You're going to invest $5,000 in this company, and then they're going to, in a few months later, hopefully, deliver it.
Did they say anything about the timing of the deliveries?
I think they want to get it out mid-year.
Okay.
But everybody should go read Micah's article. There's tons of little details in there.
What I'm showing right now is the launch article, but if you look on today's Electrek, there's another article that was posted, which is a very extensive interview with Storm Saunders. Is his name?
The founder.
The founder of a Saunders. So check it out if you want all the details and the explanation about everything. But we're done right now. We're going to jump into the comments, the questions.
All right. Let's get to it. Would be nice to hear your thoughts on the EQA. Well, good for us. I was hoping for four-wheel drive from the start, as were we. Front-wheel drive with EV levels of torque is not ideal. Mach-E might be the way to go after all. Thanks from the UK. That's a good point. I should have mentioned somewhere that I currently have a Mach-E that tonight I'm going to drive up to Vermont, about 180 miles. So that'll really put it to the test. It's already starting to snow here, so should be interesting. Yeah, the EQA, there's some competition out there for them. It's not cut and dry. It's not just the. You could kind of say that the Ford or the Chevy Bolt is a little bit of competition. Probably not for most people. Obviously, the Model Y, that's a big question mark there as well. I don't know. What do you think?
Talking Mach-E, right now you give me the choice between the EQA and the Mach-E. I think it's clear. I go with the Mach-E, though I've driven the Mach-E and I haven't driven the EQA. But just spec wise, yeah, it's a clear win for Ford, in my opinion, and it would be for Tesla if you compare it to the Model Y.
All right, Dan Howard, how long before we see contactless inductive charging while driving? That's funny. We were talking about that in the room today.
Yeah.
Oak Ridge, Tennessee project working on this now. Yeah,
it came up in the Electric Newsroom today. We all agree that it's probably won't happen in any large scale. I know that there's a bunch of pilot projects here and there, and I assume that this Oak Ridge, Tennessee project is a pilot project too. And there's some application where it might make sense. I know that there's a project where they electrify an highway in Sweden for trucks, for specific trucks. that allowed some long distance driving because the truck will use the inductive driving on the top, and that would allow them to reach greater distances. But
I mean, at that point, it's almost a train, really.
Yeah, then it becomes sort of a train for sure, but a train that can get off of its rail, which is the highway with the charging system implemented. If you go with a charging system that's embedded into the road, I see no value in that whatsoever. I mean, roads are always in need of repairs and whatnot, and putting extremely valuable electronics in them, I don't think it's a smart idea. Also, in Tennessee, that might work, but come up north here in Quebec, and we can barely get our asphalt road together. Try to make a road with some charging technology in there. It's going to be a mess. So, yeah. And also it's a problem. It's kind of like, again, maybe for the trucks, it's another thing, but for cars, for electric cars, I think it's solving a problem that doesn't really exist because we need to improve charging infrastructure. There's no doubt about that. But trying to have you not plug in your car is not about just charging infrastructure. It's about the convenience of charging. It's everything that's inductive charging is about that. Like that's how they sell it to you. Like you don't have to plug your car anymore. But what we're trying to beat here is the gas powered cars, and plugging in your car is infinitely easier than going to the gas station and charging there, especially when you're talking about overnight charging. So I don't see it solving a problem that exists. What we need to solve is more like an enabling long distance driving and with more fast charging station, and that's going to be the key, I think, here, like just faster charging, and also maybe just more stations so you can also accommodate people that park on the streets, for example, that live in apartments and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that if you have a 300-mile EV and you don't do a lot of long-distance traveling, you almost never, you just plug in at night and you wake up with a full tank of gas, full tank of electrons. And that's pretty much it. And then, the one time that you make a long trip is when you need to start thinking about those other things.
Yeah. People are always shocked. People that don't know about EVs are always shocked. They're like, how long have you been driving electric cars? I was like 3 years or something like that. And you've seen a lot of charging station, and no, not really. I've been to like a dozen superchargers maybe, and I've traveled all around California and Quebec and whatnot. And I mean, there's just a few stations, unless you're someone that's just always on road trips left and right, but that's a minority of people. Normally, you have you need to visit your family in some places, and maybe a road trip every now and then. But you end up having your few stations that make sense for you, and then 90% of the rest of your charging is done at home.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do you wake up, or how many times, if you have a gas car, do you charge twice in a day? Because that's basically what you're doing. Or you wake up with a full tank of gas, and then you have to fill it up again in that day. That's pretty rare. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So Elon hired the former president of upstart Plugless of Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, that's been a long time ago, though.
So that's the inductive charging, but that's stationary.
Yeah. I don't think they hired them for inductive charging.
I know, but that's what the company does.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Dan Howard, that was his point, because, but I don't, but maybe not. I'm assuming.
Yeah, context. All right, David Jellison says looks like the same cabin as the Mercedes-Benz GLB or GL8. Can't say that.
Yeah. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, same.
The people always tell that to me, the way you talk about the Mercedes cars, it's like you don't know anything about them. Because I don't, unless they're electric, I know nothing about them.
Yeah. The EQA should have a pretty nice charging curve with that big buffer. Yep. I mean, we saw that with the Audi e-tron. The charging curve was pretty nice.
But it's charging curve that started at 155 kilowatts and then maintained that for a long time. Now it's going to maintain 100 kilowatts.
Right. China has begun equipping some vehicles with this capacity on their production lines at the assembly plant. I wonder what
I think that's Dan again. So that's inductive charging.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know some like the Chinese. They are pushing something like we thought that we thought that the battery swap was dead, and then Neo kind of brought it back. So I don't know. Maybe they can sell us on the inductive charging, but I just don't see it adding much value.
Johnny B says, I'm glad to see Tesla establish a presence in India. I'd like to see them build small manufacturing facility there to test the waters. Huge potential, huge hurdles.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary on the thing. The huge potential, huge hurdles. Apparently, it's not supply chain wise. It's not easy, and it's also culturally, it's very different. But I think it might be worth it once Tesla has that $25,000 car. Maybe that could.
Yeah, for
market
sure.
would be much bigger there for that. So a smaller car too. India is bigger on smaller cars. So.
All right. Why does Tesla aftermarket get a failing grade on service after the sale? How long do they catch up on customer satisfaction and service departments? Is that? I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I didn't know that they get after sale service failing grade.
There was a good today. There was a good JD Power and Associates thing. Tesla did quite well on. So
yeah, Tesla topped the industry in terms of well, I mean, it wasn't aftermarket service; it was a customer overall ownership experience. But that's part of it. That's a big part of it. So.
All right. Deleted says, I think a car company could focus just on remaking classic cars electric with new technology and keep the bodies as close to stock looking as possible. We've talked about that before. That seems quite tempting, although it is kind of hard to rip out all those guts.
And a few companies are large companies. I mean, there's a company. The company's already doing that EV conversion. I mean, there's a bunch of them in California. And,
EV West in California,
EV
and then
West is one of them. And
there's one in Texas as well.
Electrek GT too is another one that does a very cool thing. And now you have GM that wants to do like a E-Crate kit. You have Jaguar that's been talking about their classic car division going electric and just making electric conversion. So there's a lot of movement in that space that's really exciting.
Model 3 is 1,500 euros more expensive in Sweden than France at the moment. Crazy, same VAT. Maybe get on the boat, go get a. But they probably have a bridge to Denmark. All right,
15,000 even.
Oh, that's crazy! If it's 15,000,
that'd be different. Yeah,
that's worth a ride. Wonder why. Dan Howard back saying, I want a no thrills Tesla. Well, good luck. Simple utility pickup truck for country boys. How long is the wait? Like Truckla, something practical for rough and tough working people, like old simple Datsun, Toyota, smaller bench seats, or will I go to China?
Truckla, is he referring to that YouTuber?
That was a Model Y, yeah.
No, it was a Model 3.
3.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call that like practical necessarily.
No.
I mean, so what's your problem with the Cybertruck? Is it because the design is the issue? I mean, because I think it's going to be very practical.
Maybe he's more of a Rivian, or I mean, the Ford F-150 is coming out, so yeah.
Well, I mean, also it's the price too. Like if you go with those Datsun and smaller bench, Toyota, they're a lot cheaper. So, but I mean, you cannot expect that right now for electrification. I mean, we start top market and then we go down. It's just
right, high volume as well.
Yeah.
All right, VW needs to make a electric 60s bug. They would sell out.
I mean, isn't it EV West, or is it another one that specializes in electrification of VW vans and bugs and whatnot?
Yeah, they've made some cool ones, and they're quite fast as well. I agree. I think VW should do that. I think they're probably hitting the low hanging fruit with the ID3 first, and then maybe they'll get around to that. General public perceives EVs as only for rich people. Haha. Bad for growth, or other just a status symbol?
We kind of went through that last time. I mean, if you want to have a global view at things, new cars are for rich people, like not just like EVs, like any new cars. Did we see last year in the US, the average new car price was over $40,000 for the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, we can afford a $40,000 car. Most people cannot.
Right.
So the average person can only afford like used cars.
Right.
And the electric used car market is in its infancy. So
right.
The electric cars will not be seen as a car for everyone until there's a very mature used car market, which is going to take a little while.
Right. All right. If Tesla is doing a refresh of the S by the end of January, it's hard to imagine they will stick with old 18650 format. Plaid will have the same format as other versions of the S. 2 updates to S in 1 year? ?
Yeah, that's so confusing. I mean, we're right there with you on that. The thing is, why they didn't shift before is because, I mean, Panasonic had this whole capacity to produce 18650 cells in Japan. So shifting that to 2170 would be hard. Now, would they do it now with the 4680 around the corner? So the situation is so weird right now. I'd love to be able to pick Elon's brain on that and know what's really going to happen. But
yeah, I guess it's just how far along are they with these 4860s? All right, been waiting forever for a metacycle-like bike. Excited to see the space grow. Yeah, we are too. I think that'll be fun to see. I would love to get one. I just don't want to get a motorcycle license, and also I don't think my wife wants me to get one either. All right.
And your kid's going to steal it.
Right. I mean, we've got those Scorpion from Juiced bikes, and those are a ton of fun. And they stay under 30 miles per hour. So that's where we're going to be for a while. Who's going to launch the first solid-state battery in serial production? Toyota?
I never bet on Toyota, but I mean, not all solid-state batteries are equal either. I think like the first generation is not going to be like the big breakthrough step that people thought it would be compared to the best lithium-ion battery we have today. So I don't think it's that exciting of a space. We need to know what the battery can do. Like the QuantumScape was exciting because we saw what the battery can do. And like, all right, this is a big step forward. Of course, that again we just discussed is not coming until a few more years. Toyota has been teasing making one sooner, but we don't know the capacity of that. So I'm not going to get excited until they do like some kind of QuantumScape-like presentation on what they have.
Yeah, it kind of feels like QuantumScape is the realest of all of them, unless you include Fisker. No. Let's see what else we got here. Q4 earnings. More info about the S and X refresh.
Refresh.
Regress. I wonder if that's.
We don't have any more info. Like I said, other than it's gonna have a new drive units. We know that they are building up new drive units, production line in Gigafactory, new battery packs, new bodies.
All right, Nicholas Eklund, thank you for I believe that's Swedish crowns, 119. I don't know what that converts to, but we will do something with that worthwhile. Any thoughts on the Q4 earnings again?
Okay, that's what you meant. Okay, any thoughts? Shantila Arnie to any thoughts? That's quite the autocorrect there. I mean, I'm gonna have my preview post probably on Monday on it, but I think what people are gonna be looking for is gonna be the projection for 2021. I think Tesla's gonna release that. And so that's going to be the thing that people are going to want for. And I wouldn't be surprised that the timing of discussion on the Model S and X refresh gonna work with that earnings report. So that's on Wednesday. That's coming. So yeah, I think that's a lot of people are going to be asking about that if Tesla doesn't release something by then. Which is not impossible because, like I said, the timing was interesting because Tesla was liquidating all Model S and X units by the end of the month, which is around the same time.
Yeah, we should find out soon. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, yes. Thanks a lot, everyone, for listening and watching on YouTube and on social media. If you like the video, and only if you liked it, give us a thumbs up. That's always appreciated. The YouTube algorithm likes that. And if you want to see the future episodes and other videos that we post on YouTube, you can give us a subscribe. If you're listening on your podcast app, give us a review. That's always appreciated. It helps the show a lot, too. And we're going to see you same place, same time next week. Stay safe. Have a good one.